You've said a couple of times in this interview that you really like Donald Trump. In March, you said you'll always love President Trump, no matter what he says about you. On Thursday, he called you low IQ, a nut job, a fool. Also, he suggested you should see a good psychiatrist. Are you going to continue to love him?
As I've said, I feel sorry for him as I do for all slaves.
Tucker Carlson just made an appearance on the UK leftist media outlet BBC. I don't know what they were thinking inviting Tucker Carlson. Big mistake. But hear what Tucker had to say, and he destroyed them and all their talking points. Big mistake. Let's watch the clip, and I'll save my commentary for the end.
It's a fantasy. The United States went to war in Iran in order to effect regime change, to throw out the people who ran the country and collapse it at the behest and then the demand of Israel. And that's a demand the Israelis have made of the U.S. government for decades. And President Trump fell for it, did it. And I think he recognized immediately that it was a mistake and that it's very hard to extricate yourself from a war like this once it has begun. And I think the net effect, and the president himself has said this, is at best to leave the regime in place, give that regime control over commodities that flow through the straits at the eastern end of the Persian Gulf, in effect to make Iran much more powerful than it was on February 27th, the day before the war began.
On that subject of being more powerful, I mean, you will know that the president has said, because of me, Iran will now never have a nuclear weapon. There will be no enrichment of uranium, and we will dig up and remove all the deeply buried nuclear dust. Pete Hegseth said epic fury has decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You don't believe that? They're lying?
Well, of course, it's not true. And it also reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of Iran's power. Iran is not primarily a military power, though it's turned out to be much more effective than anyone thought. Iran is an economic power. Iran has the power to halt a critical supply chain, maybe the single most critical supply chain in the global economy, which is shipping out of the Persian Gulf. And it retains that power because of its geography. And it's always had that power. It just hasn't exercised it until now. And so not understanding that allows you to enter into an engagement like this with the belief that you can beat them, sink their navy, destroy their air force, degrade their missile capacity, and you will somehow win. But of course, the opposite is true. There is no way out at this point from that fundamental reality. If the United States were to eliminate the central government in Tehran, it wouldn't open the strait. The strait could be closed by piracy. In fact, you need a central government in Tehran to keep the strait open. We know that from the Houthis, who were able to close the Red Sea. And years, many years of war with the Gulf states, briefly with the United States, have not ended the Houthis' ability to close access to the Red Sea. They have it as of right now. So this is an asymmetrical problem. It doesn't matter how many aircraft carriers you have. You still can't prevent other people, your enemies in this case, from closing shipping lanes. It can be done with mines. Like this whole thing, this whole problem is very easy to understand, and you would have to be either not very bright or under immense pressure from another country in order to start a war like this. And the latter is true. We did this because of pressure from Israel. Now, how exactly did they exert that pressure? That's not entirely clear, but we're going to have to find out. I think we have an obligation to find out, and because we can't be a sovereign country under these circumstances, and we're not a sovereign country at this point.
And obviously Donald Trump would push right back on that. And you have been, until now, really, a huge supporter of his. You wanted him elected, obviously, for a second term. Have you completely fallen out with him over this war then?
Well, I haven't fallen out with him. I mean, I've known him for decades. I've always liked him. And I think anyone who spent time with him likes him. I feel sorry for him, as I do for all slaves. He is not free in this moment at all to do what he thinks is best for himself or his country.
What do you mean?
No, he's not free. And we learned that yesterday when Donald Trump announced a ceasefire, clearly with relief, and made its terms, or most of its terms, public. And then that ceasefire ended within 2 hours because Israel intentionally violated the terms by attacking not just southern Lebanon, but the city of Beirut.
So are you saying he's a slave to Benjamin Netanyahu?
So I don't think it's as simple as he's under the control of Netanyahu. But, you could summarize it that way and you wouldn't be totally inaccurate. And again, we know this because the single biggest mistake Trump or any American president in my lifetime has made was going to war with Iran in an effort to change its regime. It didn't work. It was obviously a mistake immediately. Trump understood it was a mistake immediately, and he tried to get out of it this week and announced we were getting out of it, and the Israelis prevented us from getting out of it. So that's the clearest possible example.
Right.
They didn't allow it, therefore they're in charge.
You will know that people, including the Vice President, J.D. Vance, say things like, look, ceasefires are always messy to start with. Give it a few days, it'll settle down. Let me move on, because I want to ask you about the British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was criticised by the US President. He said, this is not Winston Churchill we're dealing with. Do you think Keir Starmer has made the right calls in this war?
I don't think Keir Starmer makes any calls about anything. I mean, Keir Starmer's not.
Well, he did make a call about this.
Obviously. Right. Okay. No, Keir Starmer is every bit as enslaved as Donald Trump is. It is illegal. It is a crime for which you can be arrested in Britain right now, criticizing Israel. If you say you're for Palestine action, you can be arrested. A lot of people have been arrested. So in other words, it is not legal in Britain to criticize another country. And that tells you about Britain's sovereignty. It doesn't have any. Its prime minister has no sovereignty.
Mr. Carlson,
Those are facts.
that is not true. And in terms of this war, I'm specifically asking.
I'm sorry. What is not true about that? Have people not been arrested in Britain for criticizing Israel? They certainly have been. There's videotape of it.
If I may, Palestine Action is a proscribed group. It is banned. Therefore, people have been arrested.
Why is it banned?
That is correct.
Why is it banned?
I'm asking you a question specifically about Keir Starmer and the decisions
because the Israeli government wanted it banned.
And you will know that on February the 28th, if I may, on February the 28th, which was the day the US launched its action, the British Prime Minister told the country that he was not joining with the US because he thought it was illegal and that there was no viable plan. So clearly he made a sovereign decision, which he said was in the interests of the country. And I'm asking you, do you think he made the right call there?
Any government that bans criticism of a foreign government is not sovereign. The British government has banned criticism of Israel, therefore it's not sovereign. It's acting on behalf of another country to the detriment of its own citizens. So let's just be really clear about that.
The British government has not banned criticism of the Israeli government.
It certainly has, by banning Palestine action, which has nothing to do with Britain at all, or its critical interests at all. I often criticize Britain, but I love Britain. As I said, I have family there. And I don't think that Britons understand just how badly they've been shafted by the United States. And I am ashamed of that. And I hope that we will do everything we can to rectify it. I know that Keir Starmer understands that. He doesn't seem to care, or he doesn't have, again, the control to do anything about it, which is sad to see. The debasement of the country is sad for me to see. But I hope that our next president strikes a far more conciliatory and cooperative tone with Britain and tries to help Britain, because it has a lot of problems that will be very obvious by the next time there's a presidential election in my country.
You have said that you have been called anti-Semitic because of your opposition to the US joining Israel in fighting this war.
Yes.
In March, senior Republican Senator Ted Cruz said, anti-Semitism is being spread by loud voices, the most consequential of whom is Tucker Carlson. Republican Congressman Randy Fine called you the most dangerous anti-Semite in America. What do you say to that?
Of course, I'm not an anti-Semite, and that's why they're calling me one, because my position on Israel has nothing to do with the religion or ethnicity of Israelis. It has everything to do with decisions made by its government that hurt my country. And so in order to avoid having that debate, the fastest and most expedient way to end it is by calling the person trying to raise it a bigot. And I just don't think that works anymore. I would say that what matters in politics and in life is what you do. I think anti-Semitism and racism of all kinds, including anti-white racism, are all immoral and anti-Christian, and I oppose them. You shouldn't judge people on the basis of how they were born, period.
Sure. And you said a moment ago, what matters in politics is what you do. You had far-right commentator Nick Fuentes on your show, who, as you know, said Hitler was really effing cool, Hitler was awesome, Hitler was right, the Holocaust didn't happen, and said on his podcast, in his view, Jewish people are the problem rather than Israel. I know you've said you've had him on because
I disagree with that.
Right. Do you have concerns that broadcasting Nazi-loving, Holocaust-denying guests to your audience and potentially mainstreaming and normalizing those views is an issue?
I've said that I disagreed with
It out for them. I mean, you can attack Muslims and all these other religions, and you can say whatever you want about them, but you won't be considered anti-Semitic or anything. But once you attack the Israel, then that's what you would be called. But Israel is just the government, just like if Saudi Arabia, if or any of these Muslim countries, if you have a problem with Saudi Arabia, you can criticize the government without criticizing its people, the Muslim people. So doesn't mean you're anti-Muslim. It just means like you're against what the government stands for. So you should be able to criticize any government. But what's happening here is Trump is not used to hearing no, because everybody around him is just yes, yes, yes. So now for the first time, Iran is telling him no, and he can't take it, and he doesn't know how to act, and whatever move he makes is like they're already like a move ahead, and that's exactly what's happening here. What's going to happen now is it's going to be just more escalation, because both sides are not willing to compromise, and and Trump told Iran, we need full surrender, like its demands. Iran said we cannot take these demands because it's not fair to us, and the U.S. like, hey, this is our demands, take it or not. And the U.S. doesn't want to look like the loser to the world, and Iran doesn't want to look like the loser to the world. So this is in a tough spot. So I hope we found a solution for this and we can get this war ended. But that's it for this video. If you find this video to be insightful and you want to support the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.